In the winter of 1942, the war in Europe is decided thousands of miles away from the main battlefields. Far north, beyond the reach of most maps, beyond headlines and public attention, a narrow strip of ocean has become one of the most dangerous places on Earth. This is the Barents Sea, where survival becomes a matter of temperature, endurance, and timing. Here, Allied convoys fight not only the enemy, but the Arctic itself. For the Soviet Union, these convoys are a lifeline. Factories have been evacuated east. Armies are bleeding on the Eastern Front, and German forces still threaten to break through. Tanks, aircraft, ammunition, fuel, all of it must come from the west. And the fastest route runs straight through polar waters, from Britain to the ports of Murmansk and Arkhangelsk. Every ship that makes it through keeps the Red Army alive. Every ship that sinks strengthens Germany's chances. The Arctic convoy route is brutally simple and brutally exposed. There is no cover, no friendly coastline, no air support for long stretches. During winter, the sun barely rises, creating endless twilight where ships appear suddenly out of darkness and vanish just as fast. Temperatures drop far below freezing. Ice forms on decks and superstructures, threatening to capsize ships if not constantly hacked away by hand. Men work with frostbitten fingers. Weapons jam. Machinery fails. Survival itself becomes uncertain. Yet the convoys sail. By late 1942, Germany understands the importance of this route perfectly. Submarines and aircraft have already taken a heavy toll, but now Berlin wants more than harassment. It wants destruction. The German Navy prepares to commit heavy surface units, cruisers and destroyers, to annihilate an Arctic convoy in open battle. Not a raid, not a skirmish. A decisive blow meant to prove that no convoy can pass safely through the Arctic. The Allies know this. British intelligence is aware that something is coming, but cannot know exactly when or where. What they do know is this: if a convoy is caught by German surface ships without strong protection, it will not survive. And still, the order goes out. The convoy will sail. In late December 1942, ships loaded with vital cargo push north into darkness, ice, and enemy-controlled waters. Their designation is unremarkable. Their mission is not. They carry the weight of an entire front. And soon, in the frozen emptiness of the Barents Sea, that lifeline will be tested. The convoy designated JW-51B is not large by Allied standards. It does not carry headlines. It does not look like a decisive operation. But its cargo is vital, and its timing is dangerous. In late December 1942, 14 merchant ships leave British ports bound for the Soviet Arctic. Their destination is Murmansk, a harbor that never freezes but is always under threat. Inside these ships are tanks, aircraft parts, ammunition, fuel, food, the physical substance of survival on the Eastern Front. What makes JW-51B different is not its size but its vulnerability. The convoy sails at the worst possible time of year. Winter storms dominate the Barents Sea. Visibility shifts from near total darkness to blinding snow squalls within minutes. The polar night hides enemy movements, but also conceals threats until they are dangerously close. Air cover is unreliable. Friendly aircraft cannot remain overhead for long, and German reconnaissance planes operate from bases in Norway. Submarines prowl beneath the convoy's track. Somewhere beyond the horizon, heavier German surface ships may already be moving. To protect the convoy, the Royal Navy assigns a modest escort, Light cruisers and destroyers form a moving shield around the merchant ships. Their mission is brutally simple: keep the convoy alive long enough to reach Soviet waters. They are not expected to defeat major enemy forces, only to delay them. That distinction matters. The escort commanders understand the reality of Arctic warfare. If German cruisers break through, the convoy will be annihilated. Merchant ships cannot outrun warships. Their decks are cluttered with cargo, their crews trained for transport, not combat. One concentrated attack could destroy weeks of industrial output in minutes. The convoy's formation reflects this danger. Ships steam close together, maintaining rigid discipline to avoid collisions in darkness and ice. Destroyers weave constantly, watching for torpedo wakes and periscope feathers. Guns remain manned despite freezing temperatures. Ice is chipped away hour after hour to prevent capsizing. The men aboard know the odds. Previous convoys have suffered terrible losses. Some never reach their destination at all. Survivors speak of ships exploding without warning, of men thrown into freezing water where survival is measured in minutes. And yet JW-51B sails anyway, because the alternative is worse. If the convoy turns back, the Red Army receives nothing. If it delays, German pressure increases. Every successful delivery strengthens Allied strategy. Every failure hands the initiative to Berlin. As December draws to a close, JW-51B moves deeper into the Barents Sea. Ahead lies only darkness, ice, and uncertainty. And somewhere in that darkness, German warships are searching. In Berlin, the Arctic War looks very different. By the end of 1942, German leaders believe they have finally found the solution to the convoy problem. Submarines alone are too slow. Aircraft are limited by weather and range. What is needed, they decide, is a decisive surface action, a clean strike that will wipe out an entire convoy in a single operation. The plan is given a confident name: Operation Regenbogen, Rainbow. Its objective is simple and ambitious: intercept an Allied Arctic convoy, destroy it completely, and withdraw before British reinforcements can arrive. No drawn-out battle, no unnecessary risk. Speed, firepower, and surprise will do the work. On paper, the plan looks flawless. German heavy units will engage from long range, staying outside torpedo danger while crushing the convoy's escort with superior guns. Destroyers will finish off the merchant ships. The convoy will be erased in hours, and with it, Allied confidence in the Arctic route. This is not just a military operation. It is a political demonstration. The German Navy needs success. Its surface fleet has been largely inactive, confined by Allied air power and naval superiority. A victory in the Arctic would prove that heavy ships still matter, that Germany can strike where it chooses, even late in the war. The operation is approved quickly. There is pressure to act before Allied strength grows further. The Arctic winter, with its darkness and storms, is seen as an advantage, a shield against air attack, and a natural ally of German experience in northern waters. What the planners underestimate is not the enemy's firepower. It is the enemy's mindset. British escorts are not expected to fight aggressively. Their role, German intelligence assumes, is passive defense, shielding the convoy until destruction becomes inevitable. German commanders believe hesitation and caution will dominate British reactions. They are wrong. Operation Regenbogen relies on coordination, discipline, and perfect timing. But it also relies on assumptions about visibility, about enemy behavior, about command initiative in the chaos of Arctic combat. None of those assumptions will survive first contact. As German warships move north into the polar night, confidence remains high. The convoy is believed to be lightly protected. The weather favors surprise. Orders emphasize restraint. Avoid unnecessary damage. Avoid torpedo range. Disengage if conditions become unfavorable. Victory is expected. Instead, what waits in the Barents Sea is not an easy target, but a test, and it will expose the fatal weakness of the entire plan. Against the German plan stands a force that, on paper, should not survive. The British escort protecting convoy JW-51B is small, lightly armed, and outgunned. It was never intended to fight a decisive surface engagement against heavy enemy ships. Its purpose is defensive, to shield merchant vessels, delay attackers, and buy time. Nothing more. At the center of this escort are two light cruisers, HMS Sheffield and HMS Jamaica. They are modern, well-handled ships, but they carry guns far smaller than those mounted on German heavy cruisers. Their armor offers protection against destroyers, not sustained fire from larger calibers. Around them are a handful of destroyers, fast, agile, lightly built. These ships are designed for screening and torpedo attacks, not slug-in matches with cruisers. Their crews know this, their commanders know this, and yet their orders leave little room for choice. They must stand between the convoy and destruction. The British plan is not victory in the traditional sense. It is resistance. Delay the enemy. Force them to maneuver. Confuse their targeting. Create uncertainty. If the escort can disrupt German coordination for long enough, the convoy might escape into safety. This requires something more dangerous than firepower. It requires initiative. British naval doctrine in the Arctic has been shaped by hard experience. Escorts are trained to act aggressively, even recklessly when protecting convoys. Smoke screens are laid not to retreat, but to advance unseen. Destroyers are expected to charge heavier ships if necessary, knowing full well they may not survive. This mindset defines the escort's strength. In the frozen darkness of the Barents Sea, British commanders understand that hesitation is fatal. If they wait, the convoy dies. If they withdraw, the merchant ships are left alone. So they prepare to fight in a way that defies logic. The cruisers will close the distance, despite inferior guns. The destroyers will threaten torpedo attacks to force German ships to maneuver. Smoke, speed, and confusion will be weapons as important as shells. Every decision is made with one goal: keep the convoy alive. As the escort moves north, radar screens glow faintly in darkened bridges. Guns are manned despite ice and exhaustion. Orders are short, precise, and final. There will be no reinforcements in time, no air cover, no second chances. If German ships appear, the British escort will fight them, not because it expects to win, but because it must. And in that decision lies the battle's defining paradox. The force least likely to survive will decide the outcome. The first shots of the battle are not fired in daylight, they come in darkness. On the morning of December 31st, 1942, the Barents Sea exists in a state between night and day. The sun never rises fully above the horizon. Instead, a dim gray light reflects off ice and snow, distorting distance and scale. Ships appear closer than they are. Shadows move where nothing exists. In these conditions, radar becomes more important than vision. British screens begin to show contacts ahead. Indistinct shapes, uncertain bearings. At first, it is impossible to know whether they are destroyers, cruisers, or shadows created by weather and sea clutter, but the signals persist. Something is out there. German lookouts report smoke. Two fleets are now searching for each other in near total obscurity, separated by cold water and flawed information. Neither side yet understands the size or disposition of the opposing force. Then the silence breaks. German destroyers emerge from the gloom, opening fire as they close. Their objective is clear: draw the escort away from the convoy, scatter it, and expose the merchant ships behind. British destroyers respond immediately. Smoke screens are laid within seconds, thick white walls spreading across the sea to blind enemy gunners. The convoy disappears behind artificial fog as escort ships surge forward, deliberately revealing themselves as targets. The battle begins not with heavy guns, but with maneuver. Visibility collapses, ships fire at muzzle flashes and radar bearings. Shell splashes rise suddenly from the water without warning. Explosions echo through fog where no ship can be clearly seen. A British destroyer takes hits. Damage is immediate but not fatal. Another is forced to turn away under concentrated fire, laying smoke as it retreats, only to reappear moments later on a different bearing. German commanders struggle to maintain a clear picture of the battlefield. Targets vanish, bearings change. Smoke hides friend and enemy alike. Orders transmitted by radio arrive late or incomplete. The Arctic weather amplifies every error. In the confusion, the convoy slips farther away. British ships press the attack, not to destroy, but to distract. Torpedoes are launched, not necessarily to hit, but to force German ships to turn, slow, and reassess. Each maneuver buys minutes. Minutes are everything. As heavier German ships begin to close, the British escort does not retreat. Instead, it advances deeper into danger, continuing to draw attention away from the convoy. This is not courage for its own sake. It is calculation. Every shell fired at a destroyer is one not fired at a merchant ship. Every German maneuver to avoid torpedoes is a delay. Every moment of confusion weakens the German plan. In the polar night, the battle dissolves into fragments. Isolated duels, sudden encounters, and near misses that leave crews shaken but alive. And still, the convoy moves on. The first contact has not destroyed it, but it has set the tone. This will not be the quick, decisive engagement German planners expected. It will be something far more dangerous. This is the moment where logic breaks down. In the gray chaos of the Barents Sea, British destroyers turn toward ships that outweigh them in every measurable way. They are smaller, more lightly armored, outgunned by weapons designed to kill cruisers, not escorts, and yet they attack. German heavy units begin to assert themselves through the smoke. Their guns are larger, their range greater. One accurate salvo could cripple a destroyer in seconds. German doctrine expects the British screen to withdraw under such pressure. Instead, the destroyers close in. One by one, they accelerate into danger, laying smoke while angling for torpedo positions. The intention is not to score hits at all costs, but to force German ships to maneuver, to turn away, to break formation, to lose time. Every torpedo run is a threat that cannot be ignored. On the British bridge crews, orders are brief and calm. Speed changes, course corrections, smoke deployed again and again until the sea becomes a shifting maze of white walls and fleeting silhouettes. At the center of this fight, HMS Onslow leads a bold charge. She takes heavy fire. Shells tear through her superstructure. Communications fail. Fires break out. Casualties mount. Yet she continues to maneuver, drawing German attention away from the convoy. Other destroyers follow. They weave in and out of visibility, appearing suddenly through smoke to launch torpedoes, then vanishing just as fast. German gunners struggle to hold steady aim. Targets appear, disappear, and reappear on entirely different bearings. For German commanders, this is deeply unsettling. They are being attacked by ships that should already be retreating. The sea becomes a contest of nerve. German heavy guns fire, but the enemy refuses to break. Every time a destroyer is damaged, another takes its place. Smoke obscures results. Torpedo warnings force abrupt turns that spoil firing solutions. Time slips away. The convoy continues to open distance. What the British destroyers are doing is not heroic improvisation. It is disciplined aggression, a deliberate choice to accept damage in exchange for delay. Their commanders understand that survival of individual ships is secondary to the mission. This is convoy warfare at its most brutal. No room for pride, no expectation of glory, only the calculation that if the destroyers hold long enough, the convoy will live. And slowly the German advantage begins to erode, not through losses, but through hesitation. Heavy guns mean nothing if they cannot be brought to bear. The collapse does not come with a single explosion. It comes quietly, through hesitation. By late morning, German commanders begin to realize that something is wrong. The battle is not unfolding according to plan. The convoy has not been destroyed. The escort has not broken. Instead, time has been lost, minute after minute, in smoke, maneuver, and uncertainty. German heavy ships still hold the advantage in firepower. But advantage alone is not victory. The battlefield is fragmented. Reports from destroyers conflict with cruiser observations. Radar contacts vanish into interference. Smoke obscures everything beyond short range. Commanders struggle to determine how many British ships they are facing or where the convoy now is. This uncertainty is lethal. Every torpedo warning forces German ships to turn away. Every turn disrupts firing solutions. Every delay increases the distance between the convoy and its attackers. German doctrine emphasizes caution with surface ships. These vessels are considered valuable, irreplaceable assets. Damage is unacceptable. Risk must be controlled. When faced with aggressive destroyer attacks and poor visibility, commanders choose restraint. They slow down. They disengage temporarily to re-establish formation. They wait for clarity that never comes. Then, something unexpected happens. British light cruisers appear through the smoke. Their guns are smaller, but their presence changes everything. The Germans now face the possibility that heavier Allied forces are nearby, or that the engagement is escalating beyond its original scope. This is the moment the German plan unravels. The operation was designed to destroy a convoy quickly and withdraw before reinforcements arrived. Now the Germans are uncertain whether reinforcements are already present. The risk of being drawn into a prolonged battle, or even ambushed, becomes unacceptable. Orders shift from aggression to caution. Targets are reassessed. Fire slackens. Courses are altered away from the convoy's last known position. The British sense it immediately. Pressure eases. German ships begin to withdraw, not in panic, but in doubt. And doubt in warfare is often fatal to decisive action. No decisive blow is struck. No convoy ships are annihilated. Instead, German warships turn away, leaving behind smoke, empty sea, and an intact convoy slipping beyond reach. This is not defeat in the traditional sense. It is failure of will. The German surface fleet has engaged a weaker opponent and lost not to firepower, but to uncertainty and time. And the consequences will reach far beyond the frozen waters of the Barents Sea. The battle ends without a clear moment of triumph. There is no sinking flagship, no dramatic pursuit, no final exchange of salvos to mark the outcome. Instead, the fighting simply fades into distance and smoke, leaving behind uncertainty and survival. For the British escort, the first realization is almost disbelief. The convoy is still there. Merchant ships emerge from the smoke one by one, scarred but afloat. Engines continue turning. Radios crackle with reports confirming what moments earlier seemed impossible. The convoy has lived. The cost has been real. Destroyers are damaged. Men are wounded and killed. Ammunition has been expended at alarming rates. Ships that should have withdrawn long ago are battered, barely operational, yet still maneuvering. But the essential fact remains. The convoy survives. There is no cheering on the bridges, no celebrations below deck. Crews are too exhausted, too cold, and too aware of how close the disaster came. This is not a victory won through dominance, but through endurance. The British commanders understand exactly what has happened. They have not defeated the German surface fleet in a traditional sense. They have not destroyed it. They have denied its success. And in the context of Arctic convoy warfare, denial is enough. Every hour the convoy remains intact increases its chance of reaching Soviet waters. Every mile gained reduces the possibility of renewed attack. The Germans may still be nearby, but their moment has passed. For the merchant crews, the battle feels unreal. Most never saw the enemy directly. They heard gunfire in the distance, saw smoke rising on the horizon, and waited, helpless, while others fought to keep them alive. Now they resume their grim routine, steering through ice and darkness as if nothing had happened. But everything has changed. By nightfall, the convoy has slipped beyond immediate danger. German ships do not return. No renewed attack comes. The Arctic swallows the battlefield, leaving only empty sea behind. The British escort does not pursue. It has achieved its mission. This kind of victory leaves no monuments. It does not inspire headlines, but it is the type of success upon which entire campaigns depend. A convoy saved means factories supplied, armies reinforced, strategy preserved, and the men who fought this battle understand something deeper. They were never meant to win. They were meant to hold, and they did. The consequences of the battle do not unfold at sea. They unfold in Berlin. When reports from the Barents Sea reach the German High Command, they are brief, technical, and deeply unsettling. The convoy has not been destroyed. German surface ships have disengaged. No decisive victory has been achieved. For Adolf Hitler, this is unacceptable. He had authorized Operation Regenbogen as a demonstration of strength, proof that the Kriegsmarine surface fleet could still strike decisively. Instead, the operation has produced hesitation, retreat, and failure against an enemy that should have been inferior. Hitler's reaction is immediate and explosive. He does not see a complex naval engagement shaped by weather, visibility, and uncertainty. He sees weakness, indecision, a refusal to risk ships in pursuit of victory. To him, the battle confirms his deepest suspicion, that the German surface fleet has lost its will to fight. In a furious series of conferences, Hitler lashes out at naval leadership. Heavy ships, he declares, have become useless liabilities. They consume resources, demand protection, and deliver nothing in return. The verdict is devastating. Hitler orders a drastic reduction in surface fleet operations. Major warships are to be withdrawn from active combat roles. Construction priorities shift decisively towards submarines and coastal defenses. The era of German surface raiding effectively ends, not with a sinking, but with a decision. Senior officers pay the price. Confidence in the Kriegsmarine's leadership collapses. Admiral Raeder's position becomes untenable. His influence evaporates as Hitler increasingly bypasses naval expertise altogether, imposing strategic decisions based on anger rather than analysis. The impact is immediate and irreversible. German surface ships remain in port for much of the remainder of the war. They are preserved, protected, and ultimately irrelevant. Opportunities to challenge Allied convoys at sea vanish. Initiative passes entirely to the Allies. All of this because one convoy survived. The irony is profound. The Germans did not lose ships in the Barents Sea. They did not suffer catastrophic material damage, but they lost something far more important: trust. From this point on, Hitler no longer believes that his surface navy can deliver victory. And once that belief is gone, no fleet can function effectively. The battle's true outcomes is not written in tonnage sunk or shells fired. It is written in orders never again issued, and in ships that will never again sail to fight. The Battle of the Barents Sea ends without ruins, without wreckage, without a battlefield that can be photographed. And yet it destroys something far larger than ships. It destroys an idea. Before December 1942, Germany still believes that its surface fleet has a role to play. Heavy cruisers and destroyers are seen as instruments of pressure, weapons that can threaten convoys, force escorts to spread thin, and impose risk on Allied logistics. After the Barents Sea, that belief is gone, not because the fleet is sunk, but because it is no longer trusted. The convoy survives, the escorts endure. And from that moment on, German surface ships cease to be instruments of strategy. They become liabilities, assets too valuable to risk, too politically sensitive to lose, and too constrained to employ decisively. The Arctic convoys continue. They continue despite submarines, despite aircraft, despite the cold. They continue because the one weapon that could have shattered them, coordinated surface attack, has been effectively removed from the board. For the Allies, the lesson is clear. Aggressive defense works. You do not need to annihilate the enemy. You only need to deny him certainty. Force hesitation. Create doubt. Time becomes a weapon as powerful as any gun. For Germany, the lesson is catastrophic. A navy that does not sail is no longer a navy. It is a collection of steel anchored to fear, politics, and restraint. From this point forward, German heavy ships will spend most of the war waiting, preserved, guarded, and strategically irrelevant. Historians will later describe the Battle of the Barents Sea as small. Few ships engaged, limited losses, no dramatic climax. But wars are not decided only by scale. They are decided by consequences. This single convoy action reshapes German naval policy for the remainder of the war. It accelerates the shift towards submarines. It removes surface pressure from Allied supply lines. It strengthens the Arctic route at the moment it is needed most. The battle's true legacy is invisible. It lies in convoys that arrive safely months later, in Soviet armies that receive tanks and fuel, in German ships that never again attempt what they were built to do. No monument marks this battle. No famous wreck lies on the seabed. But in the frozen silence of the Barents Sea, an entire fleet loses its future, not through destruction, but through decision. And sometimes that is the most decisive defeat of all.